Welcome to Backstage with Becca with special guest F. Michael Haynie. Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of Backstage with Becca. On this episode, they have played Bach and Wicked, Augustus Gloop, and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and they are currently on tour with Frozen the Musical as everyone's favorite snowman, Olaf. Plus, they have a solo show coming up on July 30th, 2022 at 54 Below, which you can buy tickets for now. Please welcome F. Michael Haynie. How have you been? I know your time on tour is coming to like an end.
Yeah, it is.
So is that exciting, sad, all the feelings? I know a lot of people just left tour.
I think for me, doing theater for this long in like my life and career, it always makes the little milestones that you have in your career, they don't compare to anyone else's. So it's sometimes hard to isolate how something actually does make you feel, because in theory, though I've done a lot of stuff and have had a long career, thankfully and fortunately, this is only the second time I've ever left a show.
Wow.
Because I've opened and closed almost everything I've ever done. So Wicked was only 9 months. And so I was there for 312 shows and then left. There wasn't even a conversation of like staying or coming back or anything. They were like, yeah, we had you for 9 months and we really loved you and thank you for coming. And they brought Mike Wartella in and he's great. And so I was like, oh, okay. And then with this, like making the decision to come back after COVID was really important for a lot of us. And some people chose not to, and some people, had lots of different feelings about all the things. But I think choosing to leave for the first time in my career was really hard. So it is ultimately, obviously, since it was my choice, it's exactly what I wanted to do, which was let's leave the show. But I will be leaving so many of my friends behind. I'll also be leaving people that have become my family behind, because if you think about it, never in my career and all of our lives have we been working on a show when the world stopped. So I did, I think like 83 Zooms once a week for the cast to get together during the lockdown. And I had a theme and I would email a thing out and like we'd have like games and stuff. And it was through times where we knew we were coming back towards the end, and other times when we had just gotten another delay, and people going all over the country and all these insane things. But over the 3 some odd years since, because I got cast in I think March of 2019,
so it's been a while.
Yeah, so it's been a while. And for all of us, I think in that time we've had some weddings, we've had some children on the road, we've had some new like pets, and people have made life decisions and financial decisions. We've also mourned the loss of like grandparents and like other loved ones and people in the industry. And it's been a really long, hard time. But I think I'm mostly excited to move on. My body will be very thankful to not be utilizing the puppet anymore. Not to say that like my life is done with puppetry. I love puppetry. I love performing with Olaf and as Olaf, but also there's part of me that goes like, I think it's harder than people think. And that's not to be like, oh, look at me, I'm so cool. But I think all my joints and my back and my wrists and fingers, I mean, like literally doing this every single day, like there are things that are so easy about the Olaf track. I mean, I come in 55 minutes into Act 1. It's beautiful. I hardly sing in the show, which makes it kind of easy. I just have that one song, and it's kind of a fun song. So, I don't have Let It Go waiting for me in the barrel every single night. And I've got a really great cast of people around me. We have an amazing crew, and I've never been on tour before, really. So
yeah,
I think the prospect of leaving is exciting because I get to come home to New York. I have it tattooed on my body 3 times, so I think I have a little bit of an obsession with it. And to be near my closest friends and to be near places where I get to make new art again. Not to say that can't happen on the road, but I'm used to doing concerts with new artists that are either wildly more seasoned than me, or like brand new artists that I've never heard of, or doing a reading of a new show. I've been writing some out here, which is exciting. And just getting back into going to an audition for a show that I go, ooh, this sounds exciting, and potentially getting to create a new character or start a new show. Like, all of that seems like a bright, exciting future for me.
Yes, and I mean, you've brought so much joy to the character of Olaf on tour, and I'm gonna get back into Frozen later because
Sure.
I have to, it's a must. So, I mean, I feel like all the children, like, in the audience, you mentioned coming on 55 minutes into the show, but, like, you're still, like, everyone's favorite in the show.
I mean, I think someone was talking to me and said that it's really unfair that they make the kids wait that long to see Olaf. And I go, well, yeah, imagine the pressure of literally, like, I was talking to Austin Colby as he would come off stage every night, asking how the crowd was, asking Jeremy Morse how the crowd was. I would even check in with my Anna every single night. Like Lauren Chapman, right before she went back on for the stuff with Christoph, we would always like check in. I'd be like, are they laughing? Like, what's going on? And she would help me get a gauge, because as a comedian and a performer, not knowing your audience and having to come in and do like a tight 5-minute set is so hard. So again, it's really exciting to get to come out there, and sometimes it's entrance applause and people are wild, and they're not clapping for me, they're clapping for Olaf, the idea of Olaf. But I think it's wild to get shot out of a cannon like that, because a lot of people don't know what to expect. They say like, oh, is it, because people have thought, was it going to be me, but like in like the Times Square suit?
The creepy
And
Times Square suit.
yeah. Or is it going to be like a Lord Farquaad situation where I'm like on my knees the whole time, like wearing a thing, and I'm like, actually, no, it's
No.
just, it's a puppet. And they're like, oh, are you hidden? And I'm like,
No.
actually, no, I'm also fully costumed in a hotel comforter because it's so hot. But yeah, it's crazy.
Wow. Have you ever seen, like, in Times Square, like, people, like, carrying the heads of those things? Because that is horrifying.
It is a shocking thing to see.
I'm like, the poor kids that have to walk by, like, someone carrying a mini head.
Yeah. But at the same time, I do like to I love to look at the idea that children, while they are amazed by the magic of things that they think are real, like thinking that Anna and Elsa are real and that Olaf are real, there's something about the performance for Olaf that I actually really like, because there's certain parts of kids that their brain will like evolve a little bit potentially, that they'll be able to say, oh, there's a performance happening and that these are real people. Because I think that's one of the hardest things about being a stage actor, because as we're walking out of the stage door every night, we're not able to do stage door right now because of all of the protocols. And I mean, we still have people out with COVID all the time. So if you think it's over, you're wrong. And we're trying to figure that thing out. And there's a weird thing where sometimes audiences, and sometimes younger members of the audience especially, don't know how to separate those two things. And so they don't understand why we're leaving, or why we can't talk to them, or why we look different. Like, especially me, like I wear all black every day and have tattoos down my arm. And I, walking out of the theater, a lot of times, like they won't know. And then their parent will say like, oh, that's Olaf.
Yeah.
And that they don't understand that. And I think there's part of being able to see part of theater, like a really highly theatrical version of Olaf, that might actually make some kids go like, oh wait, they're playing dress up, but like in an exciting way. Because I think that is what we get to do as adults, that like adults will come and apologize to me sometimes that they're like, oh, I couldn't stop watching the puppet. I go, that's actually my goal. My goal is for you to never notice that you're watching me, and more of it be like, I hope I can be like the score to like a movie scene, that you're not really aware of how the music is affecting your feelings and emotions. And that's me smiling, me making faces that the puppet can't make. But mostly you think it's all coming from the puppet. That's my goal. But it is very strange to play this maniac snowman.
Yes. I mean, one of the best animated characters invented. So
I mean, they invented quite a thing. I remember when Josh Gad came to see the show in LA. We had met back in New York ages ago. And just talking to him, I was like, thank you for like creating this wild character. And I'm really glad that no one ever asked me to be you, because I can't do what you do. And he goes, I've never had to do it on the stage. This is crazy. He's like, I get to go into a booth and record. So I think again, that movie was created with theater in mind, I think, from the get-go. And then also all of the performers, even though Kristen Bell hasn't been on Broadway, I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, she's got the chops from what I hear. But everybody else that worked on that show, I mean, from Bobby and Kristen, who wrote the music and lyrics, and Groff and Josh Gad and Adina, like even if you look at the additional voices, it's insane. I mean, I think Betsy Wolfe was in there. I actually think Caroline Bowman was one of the additional voices on the original film.
I saw that, like a troll or something, I think, like one of the little trolls.
Exactly. And it's just, Stephen Remus, who did all of the music work for the show, and also did Book of Mormon and Kinky Boots and Wicked. Like, Stephen was on this show from the get-go. So again, I think it was conceived with theater in mind. So the idea that these characters lend themselves to theater is a big honor to get to take over. And not to mention just, the original cast, like Greg Hildreth is one of my favorite actors of all time. Right after he left that show, he was doing a show called Moscow, Moscow, Moscow at MCC. And I remember seeing him afterwards, and I was like, it's upsetting how talented you are. And he's such a versatile actor. And when I'd seen him in previews for Frozen, I never conceived that I would ever be playing this role, because I can't do what Greg does. When I saw Ryan Redmond do the role, I can't do what Ryan does. And very fortunately, they asked me to do what I do, and it fit in the world. And I just feel very fortunate that I wasn't expecting them to care what I wanted to bring to the part. And I'm really, really fortunate that for whatever reason, walking into that audition with tattoos, a beard, and a mohawk, that they thought, yeah, all right, that's Olaf, sure.
Yeah, they said the energy's there. That,
I don't know.
you're like, I still don't know. Well, have you always had a passion for theater and performing growing up? Did you know that you wanted to perform on stage? Oh wait, did it freeze?
I think I'm having a connection issue. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Oh, there we go. We're back.
Yep.
Hotel internet, always reliable.
Love hotel internet.
Yeah.
You have to like
Sorry,
upgrade to the enhanced, and it's like they make like a huge deal of it. I had that problem last week.
Yeah, it's wild, because sometimes anyway, we could talk about hotels, another thing about traveling that is wild. But what was your question?
So my question was, have you always had a passion for theater and performing, and growing up, did you always know you wanted to perform on stage?
I think I knew I wanted to be a performer, but I didn't actually think it was theater. For the longest time, my passion was like band. I was in the marching band, and I played lots of instruments, and I wanted to be a band director. I had a whole path for myself. I wanted to go to University of South Carolina and be a brass performance major and end up being like a college band director or something. That's all I wanted to do. And I did theater because one of my moms was my band director, and my other mom was my theater director. And because I went through a K through 12. It was a private school, but since my mom taught there, I got a scholarship. It's the only way I could have afforded to go to this crazy place. And so I was there, and my brother was there, and he loved theater. And we'd grown up with it. Like my grandparents both loved theater. And I did it for fun, and also because when you're all carpooling together in one car, I had to stay for theater rehearsal anyway, so I might as well like be in the play. I remember like fighting and arguing with my mom because I didn't want to be in South Pacific or something like that, and I was like, "No, I don't want to do it." And she was like, "I need people in the show." It was like Friday Night Lights, but for theater. And so I really wanted to be in band. It's really what I wanted to do. I was all state, and trying to like really really push myself to do that. And then I think it was like my sophomore year, I did a show. I did Pippin with my brother,
Ooh.
and I played the leading player and he played Pippin. And I was watching the pro shot. It wasn't the original company, but there's a pro shot of Pippin that's quite amazing. And the cast was phenomenal. And just watching these remarkable performances in a show that was weird, because in my head, musical theater, and this is a bias that I have that I think is not unique. I think a lot of people in this world have a bias that musical theater means, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but musical theater means like the most cliche version of what you think Rodgers and Hammerstein is in your head. That it's like only what old white people like to listen to, and it's about like it's all like sexist and chauvinist and dumb, and like there are like all these things that or are because I didn't conceive them that way and also hadn't studied theater. And so I was just like, I don't want to do that. I like listening to Jason Mraz and Ludacris, and I don't want to listen to this. And like I still to this day say my favorite musical is Idlewild, which was the Outcast musical that was a movie that was, I think, MTV Films or HBO Films or something like that. It's incredible. The cast, just look it up. Idlewild.
Wait,
it is amazing. Yeah.
You gotta send me the spelling of it too and everything.
I will. But I think there's this thing that all of a sudden I was doing a quote musical, and it was weird, and like the story was cerebral, and like, is the leading player the devil? Like I was also like reading a lot of philosophy at the time because I'm a nut, and I was like, wait, I love this is a story about like existentialist crisis, and it is a story about longing and wanting and unreliable narrators, and it's not just guy gets gal. Like I was stunned because it was so out of what I expected musicals to be. And while I don't think Stephen Schwartz is the most avant-garde musical theater writer, it was so different from anything I'd ever heard that someone had called a musical. Because I didn't think about things like Little Shop of Horrors as being a musical. I didn't think of, and still that was stylized like 50s kind of thing. And so all of a sudden I started hearing this new music, and I started hearing things. And granted, the first ones I started hearing like that were still these like older, middle-aged, whiter composers, but they were in different styles. And so suddenly my brain opened up to the idea that the music that I liked, the ideas that I liked, could eventually be also musicals. And then I heard Sondheim. And I had known of Sondheim stuff, but I'd never really thought about it, because in my head it seemed more in like the opera world, because I never saw good Sondheim when I was a kid. Because it's like seeing good Shakespeare, that like it can happen, but it's just really, really, it's a really challenging delivery device. And I watched the pro shot of Into the Woods and Sweeney Todd, and I was like, uh-oh, everybody dies at the end. There's blood, there's violence, there's consequences for your actions. This is it for me. Like, I feel like it's in the same way that if you'd grown up on Disney films, and then while you were a kid, you discovered like Studio Ghibli. Like, I think that would have been a thing for me where I was like, oh, Disney, that doesn't seem for me. Like, I watched the Disney things when I was a kid, but like, I think I just saw Emperor's New Groove for the first time.
Really?
And yeah, it wasn't part of my world. I went and saw Frozen because I had friends in it. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing. Like I don't necessarily do that. And I don't gravitate towards musicals. And that is to say that I am opening my eyes and trying to be more like embracing the art form as I'm working within it, because I watched what it was like to be in a Tupac musical on Broadway and have my friends literally laugh and go, wait, that's not real. And I'm like, no, it's real. It's good. It's got a lot of work. It needed a lot of work. There were a lot of things working against it as a piece. It was a pre-Hamilton Broadway where people didn't think about the idea of like hip hop being on Broadway. And so the idea of a Tupac Shakur musical, people were like, that sounds dumb. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to talk about the racist overtones of how that operates within our business, but like, it is a weird thing. So, as a high schooler discovering that musical theater could be different things, could be Sweeney Todd literally slicing people's throats open. And I was like, what the heck? And then the dark fairy tale of Into the Woods. And so I all of a sudden got so obsessed with acting because I was like, there are these things called characters that I thought were these one-dimensional little like, plug and play pieces. And suddenly there was such depth there. And they reminded me of things that I wanted to do as a performer, which is make people think and make people understand other people's circumstances. And so then I just leaned full in over like my last, like, it really wasn't until like my end of my junior year, beginning of my senior year, where I went, wait, I think I want to do this professionally. I was a dum-dum and only applied to 4 schools because I thought that fate would tell me if I was supposed to do this for a living. I got into only one of them. And unfortunately for my mother's bank account, it was NYU. And got rejections from every other school that I applied to. And I didn't even get into the musical theater program at NYU. I got into just the straight acting program, which was the best thing that ever happened to me because I thought musical theater was different from acting. And that I was like, well, I'm not a good actor. I'm probably just because I do music, so that makes more sense. And then I had to learn to be a good actor in school. And truly, like nowadays, there's part of me that as much as I love music, the idea of doing things that aren't musicals, it delights me so much, like even the prospect of it. But then when I'm working on a show that is a musical, I don't approach it like a musical, if that makes sense.
More acting wise.
Yeah. And I think that's why, like, when people ask me about my, my favorite Elphaba riffs, I go, what are you talking about? Like my favorite Elphabas were always the ones who acted the show. Like, I don't care what tricks you do on things I never felt. Like, I don't care. But if your wizard and I built into your Defying Gravity and then had the cathartic denouement of No Good Deed, like if you can do those 3, that's the show for me for that part. Yes. Not like what riff. You know what I mean? So I think it's been a great thing for me to go there. I think for a long time I thought I didn't like musical theater. And I think that as an idea potentially is still accurate because I think there is an idea of what musical theater and what Big B Broadway is that is changing as a social thing right now for the world. And I go, I think I don't like the people who have held the keys to the kingdom of musical theater, especially. And as they are being snatched from their cold dead hands, I think that I look forward to saying that I love musical theater because it is a place where you can live in this heightened, incredible, strange place that is so like, so unrealistic. But then I look at the things that like pop so hard in film and TV, and like I was watching Umbrella Academy and there's a Footloose dance number in the middle of one scene. And I died laughing, and it was so absurd and so ridiculous, but it works in the show for what they're doing. But I think there's this thing about, I go like, there is something about music and musical theater and telling a story through music and through lyrics and through words that rhyme. Like there is a structure to that makes you feel so comfortable that being able to manipulate that structure is why musical theater might actually be remarkable. Like it might actually be like my favorite art form, even though I keep saying like, I don't know how I feel about this musical theater thing. I think there's it's exciting. I don't know. I think there are people a lot younger than me that are gonna really blow my mind, and I'm just gonna be an old person sitting in a theater going, we never knew what we could have done.
I mean, it's changing every day. Some good things, some bad things happening in the industry, but
always.
I mean, I feel like there's so much growth that can still happen in the musical theater world.
Agreed.
And it's fascinating that you were talking about being in an acting program at NYU, because like when you're performing on stage, I don't know, people watching this have probably seen you perform on stage. Like you can tell that you have the acting experience and you have the acting chops, and you just aren't like coming on stage and going, like walking through the show. You're actually acting.
I really appreciate that. I think there's something that is really hard to hold on to in commercial musical theater, And because we've talked about it a lot as like actors who've been doing, I mean, we've done the show 420 something
A lot
times.
of times.
And it's sometimes hard to keep it fresh and things like that. But I go, it really isn't. If you're leaning into the acting part, you're finding ways to respond. The audience is always a new, like, all the rocks in the river move every night. The river still goes in the same way, but like, sometimes the audience really leans in, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're horrible and rude. Like, I mean, you never know what to expect. And I think being present and being on stage with your fellow actors, like, I could do this show with Mason Reeves for the rest of my career. Now, neither of us should do that because it's not healthy for anybody. But like, he's such a good actor that like, even the things that you don't notice, one person will notice a night.
Yep.
10 people will notice a night. But these little things that like always keep us on our toes, we genuinely make each other laugh on stage, even if it's not what you think of as like in the script. There are sections where like it will continue to evolve because we have this history and this shared language, and all of the actors on stage in that show every night are really leaning into the acting part. And we talk, like, the things we talk about, like, it sounds sometimes like we're trying to justify the fact that we're doing what someone could look at as like a kid show. But I go like, also, I just realized that my phone says F's phone Jackbox, and that's hilarious because that means I've been playing Jackbox TV on this account, and that makes me laugh really hard. We do things on tour.
Yeah.
But I think that there is something about when you lean in with acting, and it's why I struggle sometimes when people say like they have a musical theater degree. There are lots of different ways to do things in the business, but I go like, I really think that like learning to sing, even if you're not a singer, is important. Learning to dance, even if you're not a dancer, is important because it's about the awareness of your voice, the awareness of your body. And then as an actor, it all starts from there. So, I've had a lot of people talk to me because, between literally setting myself on fire in this show and,
Literally.
and screaming at the top of my lungs the whole time, people are like, oh, do you lose your voice? What's going on? And I go, no, because in my like voice training, that wasn't singing. In my speech training, learning ways to phonate and where to put these things and like to practice and all these things, it's all technical. It's all these technical things. And once I've learned to do those things technically, all I have to do is act, and it will be there. So I think people really underestimate the idea that musical theater is just an affectation of theater. You know what I mean? It's not a different thing. It's like you go, oh, I do theater. Oh, in this one I do a musical, and in this one I'm doing a movie. Because again, it's all when you're doing a movie, you have to be aware of where the camera is. So there's part of you that's doing that. We're shooting the show out of order. We're doing 5 different takes of the same thing. We're never touching that scene again. Like they are all different sets of skills. And I think being able to apply your raw, like the raw putty that is being an actor, being able to apply that to different mediums. I think casting directors and people that write blogs, and Twitter are the 3 places where they don't think that those are the same things. And they're like, oh, they're just a TV actor. They'll never make it in a movie. Oh, they're just a stage actor. They'll never make it in a film. Like it's all the same stuff. And you just gotta not put on goggles and judge, oh, musical theater actors are over the top. I go, watch some movies. Just watch them. You'll see them. Yeah. You'll see people.
I mean, and in movies and TV shows, like you get multiple takes too. You don't have just one chance to convey to the audience that night what's happening.
Absolutely. And it's also like not to get on a soapbox, but like I think it's one of the reasons why I as an actor have always struggled with the idea of bootlegs, because I go like, this wasn't meant for that. It's like it wasn't meant to be. It's meant to be a safe place where like I've cracked on stage. I've fallen down on stage in my career. I have said the wrong lines. I've also had a panic attack on stage. Had a panic attack on stage. I looked around. I didn't know where I was. I was lost. And it was in the middle of a Broadway show. And I watched another actor see me spiraling, put their hands on me and help me be in the right place so we could finish the number. And then I walked off stage and like was like shaking. And I went, I don't know where I am. And if someone had a bootleg of that and they're like, "Ah, why was Augustus Gloop being so weird in that scene?" And I was like, well, because Augustus Gloop wasn't on that stage anymore. And neither was F. There was a human being having a panic attack on stage that was completely unrelated to the show.
Yep.
And I think there are all these things that we need to talk about, because I mean there's also a financial compensation part about bootlegs that we're never going to talk about. Like
Yeah.
it can single-handedly change your career to have a pro shot. Like think about the people that have done Hamilton. There's so many amazing people who've done Hamilton. There's a pro shot of it. That is how people will remember that show.
Yep.
I had the pleasure of talking to Joanna Gleason and in an interview, and she talked about how that pro shot, like the pro shot of Into the Woods, she is the baker's wife. How many other people from original casts of shows from that time are like indelibly, they're new cast recordings all the time. There are all these new things, but the bootleg of that one time someone's shaky camera caught in summer. I think someone sent me a clip from one the other day, and I was like, I looked at the first 2 seconds of it because I didn't know what it was. And I all of a sudden looked, and because of the cast that was on stage, and because of a thing I did, a joke I did at the very beginning of the song, I went, that was from Schenectady in 2019. Like, there's no way it wasn't like 10 shows in. I was horrible. I don't mean I was a horrible actor, but like I was still learning how to do the puppet and like learning all these things. And we were in previews. The show wasn't even open. So the idea that that would be like the only representation of my work on stage, work that like one of my closest friends has always been working or unavailable to see me in this show the entire time I've been doing it. And I might leave the show and him never see it. And that is depressing to me, but I don't want to be like, hey, pull up a bootleg because you'll get to see my work. No, you won't. Not at all.
I mean, I personally think that this production could be very good if it was like shot professionally.
I mean, we'd love the paycheck. I'll tell you that. But it's hard. I'd feel bad because the original company on Broadway, many members of whom have joined our show at different times, they closed the hardest way that a show can close. And I still to this day feel through them. Having Lauren Chapman out here as our Anna has been really great because we've been friends for a long time before that. But being able to talk to her about it and say like, I don't know what it must have been like. And every show had its own challenges, but it's hard when actors and shows feel like they're pitted against each other. And I think that's something about when you wait this long and don't have a pro shot of a show. I think suddenly then it becomes this weird thing that is about a producer and their money and not about like the human beings that are doing the show. That like, it's wild. Like if a lot of our principal company leaves and they film with the new cast, that would be really exciting. If they ever filmed a different version, like the German version or the Australian version or the London version, there are perks to all of those things. And I'd be really sad because I know that what we created, what is the new show of Frozen that we created in 2019, that they installed into the Broadway show that only made it like 2 weeks before the shutdown. That's the version that they took to London. That's the version they took to a lot of other places. And, there's our DNA from that. And that's not me trying to be arrogant or take anything. We get the DNA from, I get the DNA from Greg and his contributions to the show, from Josh and his contributions to the film and the thing. It's all related. And I think bootlegs are such a weird thing because, that it represents such, when you walk out of a movie and you review it in your head, you get to have all these feelings, and that's great. When you watch a show on Disney Plus that's released like weekly, and you don't get to consume it all together, you get to consume it and then dissect it frame by frame for a week and then do it and dissect it frame by frame. It sometimes makes things that weren't originally meant to be series and they were meant to be movies you see the plot holes that are not plot holes. You've had time to attack them. And I think that's the thing, that like the idea that theater is the worst planned, least ideal circumstance to tell a story, because you go, it's literally live. There's no going back and editing, and it's 1,000 things. It's who's sick that day, how'd you feel that day, did you eat
Always different.
good food that day, are you really sad? It was, I've done shows where I was missing a funeral, and done shows where I was missing a wedding. I've done shows where I got broken up with that day. I've done shows where like I fell in love that day. You know what I mean? Like
All the
we
emotions.
we as people always do these things. And it's so funny that someone captures it, like kind of steals it from you, like how the Amish people look at like photographs, that like someone kind of steals a little bit of our soul. And I go, but that wasn't the agreement we made. The agreement we made was we're all going to sit here in this room and try this one time. And that's
Yeah.
what I love about theater. Like it is, I'm never worried if I go like, oh, I might crack on this note, because I go, I'm going to do it as honestly and to the best of my ability every night. And obviously, I am a psychopath and I want to have the best show ever every single night. If I'm tired, I will still blow out my voice trying to scream because I set myself on fire, you know?
Yeah. Trying to create the comedy and the enjoyment for all the audience members.
Yeah. I don't know what marking is, and it's probably not healthy.
I mean, if you want to see a show, like if you miss a show after you see it and want to see it again, go try to find a way to get another ticket.
Yeah. And you might get an amazing opportunity to see an understudy or a swing or someone that you haven't seen. And like, I think it's the coolest thing about getting to do a show for this long, having done the show with like 5 different actors playing Anna at this point. It's fascinating. It's so cool. Like that is my whole show. Anna and Kristoff are my whole show, and 5 Annas and 3 Kristoffs in my time has been thrilling and exciting, and it's hard. And then you take those 5 and then you jumble them up into different combinations every single night. It's wild, and that doesn't even include the Elsas and the Hans and the ensemble members that you encounter the entire show. And
swings.
It's a really cool thing, and I really love live theater, and I hope it is something that I can do for a long time, and that it works out, because there are parts of it that I just love so dearly.
I mean, I think it'll work out in the long run for you in the future. So I'm curious to know, because super big Frozen fan here. How has your portrayal of Olaf changed from pre-pandemic to now? Because I know COVID and being away from theater changed everyone.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, and I hope this doesn't sound too cerebral, but we've already been all over the map. Sorry, yeah. I'm a tangent person.
No, love it.
I think the biggest thing that changed about my Olaf is that from the first time I ever started conceiving Olaf, not in my auditions where I was just playing Olaf like by himself, but as F the performer has approached the role of Olaf since I've had a cast. It sounds like I'm like leaning in too hard again to like a theater for young audience show, but I think the thing about Olaf is that Olaf is in the script a little bit of Anna and a little bit of Elsa. Has to be. That's the whole bit. The whole bit is that Olaf has like 2 moms in like a chemistry way and not in like a biological way. That he is the best things about Anna and the best things about Elsa. And so that's always been there in the script for me, of like, I play too much Dungeons and Dragons and video games to not want to lean into the idea that the reason that Olaf can't save Anna's frozen heart by sacrificing his life for her, which he does, the reason it doesn't work is because he doesn't actually love her. He's cursed with love because they cast a spell at the beginning. It's a whole thing. But like Olaf is not capable of selfless love because he is cursed this way. But like, and I don't mean it in a dark way. I just mean like he's the parts of Anna that is fearless, that is selfless, that is gullible, that is like will make oversight to see the kindness in people. He's also, and one of the things I brought in, he is terrified of things like Elsa is, but will do anything to save the people that he loves, like Elsa does. And there are all these things. So that's why, when I have a bunch of really dumb takes in the show that make me laugh, but like when they say, you got to help us bring back summer, and then I scream at the top of my lungs, like someone said, like, the devil, and I'm like, the devil. And then it's because Olaf doesn't know the bad things. He's been protected and shielded from a lot of the bad things. So he just knows that he's supposed to have a strong emotional reaction to summer, to the idea of summer, because that's his brain telling him that if you go to the hot, you will die. But he doesn't have the connection yet. He just goes strong emotional reaction. And I think that, like, it's like when a kid falls over and they bang their hand, and then people look at him and they go, "Oh, are you okay?" And they go, "Not anymore." Ah!
Yeah,
Yeah.
It
And
takes
so
like
I
10
think,
seconds.
yeah. So I think like that was my main approach to the part. But what's changed for me is that I have been able to get to know the human beings who play Anna and Elsa, and have covered Anna and Elsa. And my show changes depending on who's on stage. Like, I originally built my Olaf, what I thought was building my Olaf to be Olaf, was building it on Caroline Interbickler and Caroline Bowman. And then as those things have changed, and I've gotten to do the show with Berkeley Going and with Marina Kondo, and like, then I think Mackenzie Kurtz came in, and then we have Lauren Chapman, and then we have Adriana Rose Lyons, and we have Kaylin Kreitzer. Like, having those different combinations, they all changed me a little bit. And as I started getting better with like knowing my lines and knowing my blocking and things like that, I was starting to steal from them. That, like, every now and then an Anna would do like a snort, like a like laugh, and I went, all right, so that's in the show tonight. So I would try to put it in the show. I would hear them say, like, when they're talking to Wesselton, and they would be like, the way they laughed, I would try to parrot that laugh later in the show when I came on. I would try to have my pacing. I would try to match Caroline Bowman's pacing, the way that she speaks when I would speak to her in the show, because there's only one small scene that we have together, and watching the proximity to both of them changing how Olaf is, and then working with such great actors in both of those roles. I think that has been the thing that changed. That when we came back, we knew how precious each of us was as a person, and we knew what it was like to take our last bow, because we kind of knew the night that we bowed in Portland, we kind of knew what was up. We didn't think we were going to be back at the show the next day, and we knew what it was like to take our first bow in Buffalo when we came back. We knew what it was like the first time on tour when we had a bunch of people out with COVID, like us being scared, like knowing this could always end again. And I think being able to hold those people, those human beings, on stage with me every night, and let Olaf just reflect them, has been a huge gift, because that is them being very open with me and being very brutally honest on stage, letting emotions fly. Like every single time at the end when Anna freezes and Caroline screams for her sister, I'm not even acting anymore. I burst into tears, and I'm just there with two people that I love, and I'm just standing there. I just sit there and experience the wake, like the seismic wake of what that moment is. And then when they're happy, I'm happy again. And it is so exciting to get to work with people like that put their whole heart in it. And I think it's not to say people didn't put the whole heart in it when we were doing what we call 1.0. But in this 2.0, there, we leave it out there every single night. And I think that it has indelibly changed Olaf, because Olaf always lives at 100% emotion. Like, I always go, if Olaf is happy, Olaf laughs. If Olaf is sad, Olaf cries. If Olaf is scared, Olaf screams. Like, all the things.
Yep.
And that's, there's no 90%. There's no 50%. It is, we get to the castle gates and it's like, hey, we got crazy princess out there. Like it's screaming. But then if I find something funny in the show, I just laugh. And when everyone else is also living at heightened emotions, it makes that like that the tank bigger. And it's really special to get to share the stage with I keep going back to it, but sharing the stage with this group of actors and this group of human beings is a really special opportunity, and I will miss that. I will miss this the homunculus that is our cast.
I mean, you see the chemistry on stage. For people who have yet to see the show, like, you're gonna see the chemistry on stage with the whole cast, not just like the leads. Everyone.
Yeah. All of our ensemble members, they could, because the show constantly has to shift because of health and safety and because of all these other things, and we have so many vacation swings coming in and like amazing people from New York that will fly in for a night, and like all these like little bits and pieces that keep happening, and some of them completely unbeknownst to the audience or to fans. There's so many people coming in and out, which is so exciting for leaves of absence and for other exciting things that are happening. And there was even one night where two men in the ensemble were a couple in a section, and it was designed that way by our dance captains. And I literally turned around at one point in that scene and noticed them standing together, and I went, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I hate that it's taken like crazy things to make stuff like that happen, because almost every show in musical theater, it struggles with gender as a construct. I mean, I remember when we were first started, our Anna had to fight to not get picked up so many times, like just because it was part of the trope, it was part of the movies, part of these things. And you know, there were lots of times where Olaf came in and was like very like Errol Flynn, like, I'm here to save the day. And so I tried to augment those to be Olaf's true passion, but absolute cowardice. And not like, yeah, sit down, little lady, I'll help you. Watching the way that Mason Reeves, who plays Kristoff, expertly navigate a character that could just be a chauvinistic douchebag, and let him be so many more colors and such an exciting thing. Watching Austin Colby's portrayal of Hans, which unless you've already seen it, you no longer get the pleasure. He had his last show this last weekend. And Ryan McCartan is great. We've done the show together. I'm excited to have him back. But Austin brought something that I've never seen to that role in any of the people that I saw on Broadway, and not in a better or worse way, but he brought something that you wanted so desperately him to not be the bad guy at the end. And it was just hard, and it's because he was so genuine and beautiful of heart to create this character. And I think there are a lot of things about theater in general, like we have gendered bows, we have gendered ensembles, we have gendered tracks. Like I think there was an actor who, granted, Olaf has been played by a woman before. I was playing Olaf as a he/him actor, and now I play it as a they/them actor, which is, you know, life changes, and we all grow and evolve in our own ways. But I think the gender of the actor playing Olaf doesn't matter. And I think we as an industry need to continue to go out of our comfort zone in how we look at things like coverage. I mean, tell me that they couldn't have an amazing actor come in to cover both Anna and Olaf. Like, Anna's one of the hardest roles in the show, just for the amount that you have to do. And if you are funny and can sing and can dance, you could do Olaf. Like, learning the puppetry would be a thing, but like, you know, I wasn't a puppeteer. I learned it. And I look at it and I go, there are so many things we have to learn and get just better about. I mean, gender representation in general in theater, but it's especially in the way that we look at like family shows, that the idea of having couples that are represented in, because everything's couple off. Like, couples dancing is a thing that happens in every musical. And for the most part, it's always a guy and a gal of similar height that look in some ways similar.
It's kind of
Um,
weird. It's like, are they supposed to be related? What is happening?
yeah, it's wild. But then, even things with Frozen, and this is not me coming for anybody, but like looking at a show like Frozen, and you say, oh, the scene where all of the hidden folk are healing Anna or trying to heal her, that's all the women in the company. Um, and then the people that storm the castle to go get Elsa back, oh, it's all the men. And you go, well, why? Are women incapable of storming the castle? No, literally in the scene before, when they're like, what do we do? And Hans is like, we got to go get her back. And the men and the women in the company are all saying they volunteer. And you go, okay, so like, what if you did that? Or like, I know it's a period piece, but you know, put different people in dresses, put different people in pants. Like it's like I think we're just so caught in the thing about what gender expression means in theater, and it is really wild to me. And about just it's a topic we could have an entire podcast about. But yeah, sorry, that was me tangenting again.
I think you're 100% correct. I'm very curious to know. I want to get into your solo show coming up, but I'm very curious to know first, because you've talked about the puppetry. How long did it take you to master that? And like, how did you learn?
Short answer is still working. I think that puppetry, like any other performing art, it's not a thing. It's not a plateau you reach and then you are just there. I think there are so many levels to it, and I continue to, in the role-playing game of being a puppeteer, I continue to level up, and all of my progress has to do with, I think, three things. One, selfishly, just that I'm a perfectionist, and anytime I did something wrong and do something wrong, I punish myself in my head. I go, that wasn't good. That was a terrible in summer. That's horrible. What did you do wrong? Fix it. You should be embarrassed. And like, that's bad. That's not, that's it. I push myself, and sometimes I need to be easier on myself because what we do is hard. But I have an insatiable need to be perfect in a world where perfection doesn't exist. And that is maybe one of the things that drives me, but that's another podcast. But then the second thing was the actors around me, getting to play with them every single night helps me stay really honest, helps me say, like, I don't want to be stuck in saying that, like, well, this is the part where Olaf, like, I can put the hand here and then you can hold my hand. I want you to be able to offer your hand and me to be able to grab it. I want you to be able to, like, decide to take a different take in a scene and need to be able to keep up with you. Because when you have to kind of plan every blink and every eyebrow raise and every, like, double take and every step, you have to plan. So as I've learned, working with my cast has been really great as a teacher, because constantly, like, this sounds so crazy, but I think it's like in Westworld, like the robots that are like, well, not robots, but the hosts that are like learning to be people with people. I think that's the thing about Olaf, that since no one's making eye contact with me, no one's touching like my physical human, they're all interacting with Olaf. If they don't believe it, then I might be doing something wrong. So when I can make one of them laugh with a genuine take, if I can like do something that I would do as an actor of like, and have them like know what I'm doing, that for me is feeding of like, okay, you're doing it right. And then the last part and the most important part was, on this show, on Frozen the musical, there is someone who has basically no title because he has every title. His name is Lorenzo Pizzoni. He does the magic, he does the Svens, he does the Olafs, he does a lot of the fight choreography and things like that. Like, he is maybe one of the most incredible artists I've ever had the pleasure of working with. He literally grew up in a circus, and he has a documentary about that. And I got to have, because we were setting the tour, I got to have a week of afternoons with Lorenzo. And it was basically just Lorenzo and F and Olaf having playtime. And at first I was like, okay, they're going to teach me like all this stuff. We're going to start with the lines. We didn't touch the show for the first like 3 days. It was,
Know each other.
yeah, it was like, hey, let's go for a walk. And I'm like, what? And he's like, let's go for a walk. And so, it's like me, because you literally have to learn to walk.
Yeah.
And then you have to learn that this hand that controls the arms, when we walk as people, we walk in opposition. And so you have to learn to rock your hand at the right pace to have Olaf's arms walk in opposition. When you have to learn, if you want to do something, like his hands are attached to the same thing, so they move together. But you can learn to trap one and let one arm work by itself. But you have to learn all the things you can do and all the things that you can't do. And when you're doing all that, not thinking about the show, what Lorenzo was able to do for me, and I will thank him for this because I will be able to apply this to any skill I have in my career, or any puppet or anything. Once you have a set of tools that help you communicate in the language that you have to use, you no longer have to plan in the same way that you would have to plan something you didn't know how to do. It's like someone who, if you're playing music in a show, like for once, I know every now and then there'll be someone who's not as good at piano. So they'll teach the person how to play the songs they have to play on piano. They won't teach them how to play piano. They'll teach them how to play the songs that they have to play on piano.
Certain songs.
But instead, what he taught me to do was to improvise and to, hey, here are chords. And then once you learn these chords, you'll be able to go learn the notes. But by doing that, now I have the facility to go, I can problem solve on the spot. So if something happens, like all the puppets are so beautiful and incredible, but 400 and something shows, they're rough on my body, but also rough on a puppet strings. But like I've had my eyebrows break during the show where I lost the use of them. I've lost the use of my eyes before. I have had the jaw snap out. I have had hands come disconnected, so I lost my hands. I have had the body do all sorts of things. I've had my feet come off of his feet. I've done things that have caused me great physical pain. And I was able to, continue on stage because I go, okay, so I don't have a right hand. Everything I've trusted to do with my right hand, I can't do anymore, but I have a left hand. So here's what I'm going to do. And learned how to communicate that to the actors on stage. And that was Lorenzo teaching me that. And then I also have an amazing key dresser who travels with us with the show, who's worked Lion King before and lots of other things. Her name is Sue McLaughlin. And she takes care of me and Sven, where she has literally duct taped a foot back onto a foot. She has restrung part of an eye or a hand or something. She has done everything. And I think that's how you get to master something, is you continue to discover every single thing that can go wrong. And I really love puppetry, and I really hope that there is a time in the future that I'm able to approach another project. Even like for anyone listening, originate projects, I'll do that. But to get to create work with a puppet, it is the weirdest set of like constraints, because like it's horrible. You go, it's kind of like live theater. It's a horrible thing to do to someone. You say, I'm going to take away your body. Like I, as an actor who's a very physical actor, I have not had my body for 3 years. I haven't made eye contact with another actor on stage on purpose in 3 years. I have not held someone's hand with my physical hand in 3 years. So it's crazy to do those things. And the fact that every time I have to talk, I have to do this. And that if I, fell over and hit my wrist hard on a weekend, or I'm just really sore, that it changes how speaking works,
Because it's so like, ow.
Oh yeah. I mean, especially because like this is in the head, my hand is in the like soft palate. And so I'm speaking this way, but then this thumb does the eyeballs and the eyebrows. And then I can flip them and do both at the same time. But at the same time, I'm talking and turning. And then someone throws a hat at me from off stage and I have to catch it while I'm tap dancing to a Foley track.
That's impressive. That is always impressive.
I just can't wait to get my body back, and I'm excited of how freeing it will be to suddenly get myself back in whatever performances I do, because I've learned to juggle in a straitjacket, and so now if I take it off, like what else can I juggle?
Freedom. Freedom, my own body.
I know, right?
Yes. Okay, I'm very curious, tangent, and I'm sorry, I'm very
Sure.
curious though. I asked Austin Colby this. So, when you first met Caroline Interbickler, were you like double taking and like how did Disney bring the animated version of On to Life?
Um, I very fortunately had a pretty immediate connection with. Well, so I knew Austin and Caroline Bowman before the show. We knew each other, and had Austin and I worked together on a project, and Caroline and I just knew each other and professionally, and we're both wicked people, and we're like, I haven't done the show with you, but maybe one day. And when I met, I mean, the big, and I'd worked with Jeremy Morse before. We got our equity cards together 100 years ago. But when I got to do my first like day of rehearsal and really work with Mason and Caroline Interbickler, because that's my whole show was Anna and Christoph. What we created, the three of us in that room, one, I will be forever grateful to both of them as the remarkable actors and people that they are. But yeah, there was something special. I don't know how they did it. They put together a group of people who had never worked on Frozen before and put together a really, really special group of people from top to bottom, in that 2019 fall. And it was really wild. And I still think to this day, as they're bringing in the new people and as the announcements come out about the new people that will be stepping into the roles of people that are leaving, I don't mean this as in a negative way or anything like that, but I mean, good luck. You're going to find the most talented people. I have no doubt for that, because it's a great contract and it's a great job. I hope it will give people really amazing opportunities, because I'm able to leave this show with some opportunities that I wouldn't have had otherwise. And I just I don't know what alchemy or what shaman you used to put together the original cast of this tour, but there was something remarkable and special about it. And I look forward to hearing about the new company. And I don't, again, not in like a high school senior graduating and then coming back and seeing a football game, not like that. Whoever they bring in is going to be amazing. I have no doubt. I hope that everyone leans in. I hope the people who remain lean in. I hope the people that are new lean in and know that you can't recreate what another cast did. We couldn't do that with what Casey Levy and Patty Muir and Jelani and Greg and everyone. We couldn't recreate what they did, and we were very fortunate that no one ever asked us to. And I think that's something about theater and replacement casts. Often, I think replacement feels weird because it's impossible to replace most performers. Yeah. I think it's more of like, it's like the idea of understudy. I don't like the word understudy. I know it's what we use and it makes sense, but I'm like trying in my own vernacular to start calling them alternates, because it feels like yeah, I think it's what the Brits do. I think I'm an accidental Anglophile. Wonderstudy is also great, because what they do is a wonder to behold. But yeah, I think there's something about replacement, which is like, it's hard because no one can replace what any of us in this show do. And I really hope no one is ever asked to do the shit that I do in the show, because I have some things that I created for the show. I have some things that I do that I fought for, and I fought for them because they were for me. They were for my Olaf. They were for how I interpreted this world and interpreted this character. And no one should be asked or expected to do those things if they're not part of themselves. And I hope that they will also be able to request versions of these things within whatever parameters they operate, that they'll be able to create the role in their own, because I mean, I'm taking me with me, so I don't know, they can do whatever they want.
Yeah, they gotta make it their own. Like,
Have
that's
to,
like theater.
and they
They
will.
can make it on
I'm
their own.
I'm confident that the new Olaf will absolutely 100% make it their own.
I mean, I think Disney is really smart when it comes to casting. I exactly what you just said. If you look at the cast of of the show over the years, like
Oh yeah.
it's a special cast. So I want to talk about your solo show coming up on
Okay.
the
Yeah.
30th in New
Yeah.
York at 54
Yes.
Below, which is an exciting venue. I wish I was in New York to see it.
Fortunately,
I
we
was in New
are going to
York
be
this year.
streaming it.
Okay, perfect. So
Yeah.
that's amazing to know, and I'll put the in the description.
Thank you.
So, what is your process when it comes to putting together a solo show? And is it kind of terrifying in a way to like put together songs that kind of tell your life story?
I mean, the funny thing is, um, not to lead the witness, but yes, it is terrifying. Um, I think the advantage that I have over some of my friends who have done cabaret shows where they're like, one, what songs feel like they are creating parts of my life, and also what songs do I want to sing? Also, what songs do people want to hear? That's really hard. And you can go on Spotify and search, and go to your book and see what you have. Um, since all of the songs, save one or two, um, well, no, all the songs are songs that I've written or arranged. So that I get to cheat a little bit. If I want to tell the story about falling in love with my partner, I can play the song that I wrote when I fell in love with my partner. You know what I mean? If I want to talk about what self-doubt and what challenge has been examining the life of being an artist, um, I wrote that song. And if I want to talk about what it's like to constantly deal with the idea of needing to move forward and to go on to what's next, I wrote a song about it. And I think what this is for me, because I've done two shows of my music at 54 Below before, um, and they were both really exciting. And I, again, never believe anyone would want to sing my music and perform my music with me. And um, the way I kind of look at this is that it's a two-parter with the second part yet to be announced. But the first part is how I came to New York the first time in 2004 is when I moved to New York. Um, I know, old,
Is that
old.
crazy? Is that
I know
crazy? It's
it's
like, oh my
yes,
gosh, time.
it is bonkers. When people say things, sometimes they're like, "Yeah, I met you like 15 years ago," and I'm like, "I say
You're
what?
like, huh?
Yeah,
You're like, no, it's like it's 2005 right now. No, no,
yeah."
no.
One of my best
I
friends in the
swear it's
whole world, and I mean this not to name drop, but like Alex Bryman and I went to college together, and we're in an a cappella group together, and he literally is one of my best friends in the world. And when we talk about like, yeah, we met like 15, 16 years, how long has it been? Like it's that wild. So I think what this show is going to be a lot about what it was like when I first came to New York. I'm not going to have a band for the show. It's just going to be me. And I'm going to play guitar and I'm going to play piano for different songs. I have a couple of guests that I'm really excited to announce, and that should be happening. I'm waiting for one more person to make sure that they can before I say it, because when you have remarkable talents agree to perform with you, the scariest thing you can do is get anyone excited about those people
and then
and
be like,
then something not
sorry.
work out for good reasons. Um, but like it's going to be a really exciting group of people who are going to come help me tell this story. Um, and the story is about me. It's about, as an artist, growing and developing and coming to New York. I was fortunate that I went to school in New York, so I never had to come to New York. And the idea of a night of my music shared under the light of, I used to busk in Washington Square Park, like on weekends. I would go and
Okay.
I would play for like 8 hours straight. And back then people had cash, so it was much easier. You would get a handful of
Yeah.
cash every now and then. And I've been a karaoke host, and I've done all sorts of crazy things in this world, and it's it's interesting being able to go to a place like 54 Below and just get to tell these stories, and then tell some of them with music, because in many ways in September when I come back to New York for good, um, it's going to be coming back a new person. I mean, when I left in 2019, the world had not yet received the biggest blow that we've had in a long time, in a concentrated way, of the shutdown, and we're still reeling from it. And I still hope we will find our footing. But also in that time, I've grown a lot as a person. That uh, becoming better acquainted with a vernacular to explain who I am, because I've been I've been open about it as long as I've been open about it, because I was on the road, and when we were coming back, I needed to explain to people why in my bio I was going to write they them, and I needed to explain why when you say he to me, that doesn't fit who I am in this moment. And being able to come back to New York with that, like, we've all grown and changed a lot. And I think every artist is always afraid that every show they do is the last thing they'll ever do. And part of coming back and doing this show 54 Below by myself, and not trying to put together a band, and not trying to put together the flashiest, craziest thing, but having it be just like really genuine, and sharing some new stuff, and sharing some new projects, and sharing some new trajectory, that I think it will help me reintroduce myself to New York. And some of it is, yes, the business. Some of it is, yes, my friends. But like, I haven't been in New York. I was there during a lot of the shutdown. But I've been away as it.
Really there.
Yeah, it wasn't the New York that I said goodbye to. And one of the songs that I'm going to try to be brave enough to sing, because I've never actually performed it live. I improv'd it on Instagram one time. Was I wrote this song called The Packing Song. And everyone thinks that was a song that I was talking about, like saying goodbye to a lover or something like that. And really, like, I was writing this song to New York that was saying, like, when I'm gone, will you miss me? And when I'm gone, will I live in your memory? Like, has what I've done in my life and in my career as a person, as a creator, and as an artist, have they left any mark on New York? New York, in so many ways, needs new people every single day. It feeds on them like a furnace, but also there's something about being there, that the fight for relevance, the fight for who you are. Like, what is my identity without New York? And I think being able to share a lot of these things as someone who now is so much older than when I left, and has grown so much. And again, nothing changed, but I'm able to express it in a different way now in my life. And I think being able to share that part of me, and it scares the absolute crap out of me, but be able to share some of the darker parts of like what it's like. I mean, there'll still be happy songs, don't worry, it's happy songs. But like,
I mean, you're a happy person and you spread joy and stuff. So like, I was gonna say, I hope something about like where you get your youthful energy is in the show, because like there's just an energy to you that's
well, I
just
appreciate
like
that.
contagious.
Well, I some of it is that I've always had a higher pitched voice. Some of it is that, for some reason, there are parts of my face that don't seem to age. I think it's all going to catch up to me. Like, at some point in time, I'm suddenly going to look 40. Like, it's going to just come crashing through the window. But the funny thing is, like, at this point in my life, there is part of me that goes, and maybe it's a little bit of what this concert is about, which is like, I am excited to lean into who I am and not who I am perceived to be. And like, that has been a wild self-actualization, like always playing like innocent kids and going like, yeah, then I got a sleeve while I was on layoff, and I miss my beard. I grew this like big glorious beard during layoff, and I go like, that's part of who I am. And I like painting my nails, and I like wearing makeup, and I don't like wearing any colors but black. And like, why have I been performing for my life as opposed to just my career. And I think that's a lot of what the show is about, because I think playing a character has always been a place where I felt safe, which is why live theater has always been more fun for me than film and TV, even though film and TV pays better. But
Yeah.
being able to slip into a character every single day lets you kind of like, take yourself off and put yourself down. And then while you're getting dressed in this other character, every now and then you look down and you go, oh, is that me? And I think there's part of that a lot of us were forced to sit with ourselves over the lockdown and 18 months of what if the person that I was as a performer never exists again? What if theater is dead and gone and will never come back? It isn't. It's here. It's fine. It's great. It's going to be great.
It's lovely.
What if all the things I told myself to feel better about, like doing theater and doing all these things, what if none of those are true?
Yeah.
And I think now taking that person and putting them back on and coming back to New York is going to be so exciting for me as a person, and cathartic. And I hope it's a good concert. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I hope that it's good.
But it's gonna be amazing.
I appreciate that. I just also laugh because I go, I've sung in summer 400 and something times, but I haven't necessarily sung as much. I haven't done really many concerts, and and like singing and making music with my friends and going to karaoke and doing these things. It's not a reality of the world we're in right now, especially on the road, because it's not like I go, I trust this place, I know this place. Like right now I'm in Texas, and a lot of people we've met are really great, but also it's hard not to go like, hey, some political things are happening here that I really don't like. Yeah.
I mean, hey, I think y'all should, I'm in Dallas right now, and I think you all should speak out about it when you get to Dallas.
I will tell you that it is a thing that we, and I'm not trying to be I'm not trying to be duplicitous or a company person when I say this. For all the things that you see from our company, I think we are all activists. Not all. I think many of us, because I don't want to accuse anyone of having to be an activist. It's not. You don't have to be. But I think for many of us who are activists, you do not see the claw marks on the insides of the doors here of how hard we are fighting to make our impact known with our company, with our castmates, with the theaters, with the audiences. Like, someone was talking to me and they said, why did you want to put your pronouns in your bio in the theater? And I was like, well, until you mentioned it, I wasn't really afraid of it. I just wanted to do it so people wouldn't like misgender me in like reviews and stuff. And then I've gotten messages from so many people, and as scared as I was of like people sending mean things, most of it has been kindness of people reaching out and saying like, yo, that messed me up. I didn't know. And two, like, that's my experience. Or like, I've never seen a non-binary or gender non-conforming person on stage. Like, and I was like, yeah, they just didn't say it. And so, one of my amazing stage managers here was like, do you want us to put your like pronouns on your like card that goes on your door? And I was like, I mean, it would make it easier with dressers, but also I'd be scared that a dresser would like, I don't know. A lot of times with local people, I don't know. And so then a lot of us chose to do it with the help of our stage manager and the support of our team here on the road. People who have dealt with so many different mental health things while we've been on the road. People who have talked back and tried to fight back with things about racial inequity in this business and in theater, and hoping to push Disney Theatrical Group and Disney and all these things in all these right directions. And what we don't want to do as a company, and I can speak for myself in saying this, is go, I am going to fight every single day while I'm here to leave it better than when I left.
You want to enjoy yourself.
But also to I want to hold them accountable while we're here. So we don't always throw up red flags.
Yeah.
that are meant to be seen to the outside, but I can say for damn sure that our leadership in whatever places that sits for this show, that we as a company continue to challenge them and ask them for both transparency, ask them for accountability, and ask them to correct behavior that is generationally, business-wise, institutionally. We ask them to continue to embrace it, embrace change, embrace moving forward. And I can say personally that like I can't imagine what it must be like to be, I don't know, like a social media person for a giant company, because you're trying to juggle all sorts of things. But I can say for me personally that I have learned so much about the people who live in states that I judged for a long time. Because like, you know, I grew up in Georgia and then I ran away from Georgia now a million years ago. I went to New York, and New York has its own problems. Every state has its own problems.
Oh yeah.
But getting to meet so many amazing people when we were in Atlanta, getting to meet amazing people in Florida. I mean, we were there when Don't Say Gay passed. Like, it was hard. There was a protest across the street from the theater at the city hall. And I'm like, our cast is queer as hell.
Yeah.
Like it's so interesting and so hard, because we go like, you know, there's part of us who wants to say, I don't want to go perform those places where those bad things are happening. And I go, well, what about the people who those bad things are happening to? So that's been a big grown up place for me to know that, like, for every absolute monster that we perform for in places like Texas and places like Florida, there are young people who we can change their mind, or maybe even old dinosaurs that like go like, I really love that Olaf. Wait, hold on. They, them, what's that mean? I don't mean to give them a southern accent to make them sound stupid. It was both literal for being in Georgia, but
yes.
I mean, but like it is that thing of going, we have an opportunity to stand the line and to be in these places. And I hope what we're doing is progressive. I hope that what we're doing is helpful. And I hope that what we're doing is being able to be allies and advocates and activists in our own ways, while still keeping this intact. Because otherwise we just walk away and there's no show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And sometimes that's the best option. You know, maybe that's the best option sometimes, but I don't know. So I promise that in my career, and I will continue to stand up to all the times that I can, but also take fully into account the things that I still have to learn, because we're learning more every single day. And yeah.
So I want to, before I start wrapping up, I want to ask, why should people, I could listen to you talk all day, but I know you have like shows this week, you're preparing for a solo show.
Oh yeah, it's wild.
You have so much inspiration to offer. So besides the inspiration that you would have to offer, why should people come see your solo show or buy tickets to the live stream performance?
Yeah, so for me, the things that I can offer in that show are, one, some new songs that you might have never heard, even if you followed my music. Two, if you haven't followed my music and didn't know that I write music, I do. And so it'll be a whole night of that. Also some fun covers. Like, I have never shied away from wanting to do a crazy cover. There are definitely a couple of Frozen ones in there, because, you know, they can only make me sing in summer the way they want me to, 8 times a week. And I think the other thing is that I've talked about it some, and I have released some things about it, but coming back to the city, one of my big goals is to really lean in full tilt to this show that I've been writing for a really long time, a musical called Victory City. And it is hopefully a dark graphic novel of a musical. It lives in a place that I hope is relevant and I hope is exciting. I wrote it as a piece, as like a joke. I wasn't going to tell anybody what I was writing. I was just going to write a couple of songs. And this was back in like 2012. And then I kind of got addicted to these people in the show. So I started writing more and more songs for them, again, without telling anybody that there were songs for a thing. And then eventually I said, oh, well, I have these songs. Maybe I'll do them. Maybe I'll find a book writer to write the book. And, I would take, a year off, 2 years off every now and then. And then finally in like 2018, 2017, maybe, no, 2018, I said, why am I trying to not write this book? And it was because I was afraid. I was afraid of, was my voice important? Was what I had to say important? But I've been a writer and a creator for my whole life. So when I give it a shot, and then worst case scenario, it's horrible. I hope it's not horrible. But like 120 something pages later and a full score, I thought I should do something with this.
Yes.
And I've been so scared. I didn't write during the lockdown. I struggled to write at all. Any music whatsoever was just really challenging for me. And then right as I started to see the light at the end of the tunnel from tour of like going back home and being with my people and being in my city and being back in that like creative melting pot again, I went, what if I took another pass at this script and got it to a place that I felt confident about? And it still needs work. It still needs editing. It still needs so many things. But I really think that this is going to be an opportunity for me to kind of like put up or shut up and share some of the new songs that have never been shared from the show, and have a couple of guests, which will be exciting and fun. But to kind of prime the world for, I have a story to tell and I want to tell it. And I am excited to start the next parts of that storytelling journey with finding the right person to direct and finding a team, a music director, finding producers and people who will potentially want to get on board with the story that I have to tell and with the things that I want to do with this piece, and try to assemble a room of people who don't look like me, who don't think like me, who don't have the same experiences that I do, and see if what we can do together is create a really exciting piece of art. And it's scarier than opening any show I've ever done, is to say that I want to do this. But I think it's in a place now that I really am ready to see if a story with my music about a young woman who can fly, trying to answer the world, answer the question, who am I to save the world? And the other people in this show, I really think that me, for the longest time, trying to answer the question, who am I to blank, has been part of creating this. And I can't wait for a group of artists to be able to sit down with me and check me when I'm wrong, and check me in my privilege, and check me in all of the things that I want to say and how I'm saying them and how they're being perceived. And then hopefully have a beautiful artistic collaboration and create Victory City. I don't know. So that's, I literally haven't said that anywhere out loud publicly, really. So that's what I'm gonna do.
Well, I think it's gonna be amazing. I'm looking forward to seeing your show. I was actually gonna ask, have you written a show?
Yeah.
So I'm hoping some producer is like, yes, or multiple producers.
Yeah, let's get all the money.
Yeah, multiple producers are just like, I want to work with them.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yes.
I appreciate it.
Where do people follow you on social media to keep up with you on tour and in NYC?
Any of the social media platforms that you subscribe to at F. Michael Haynie will probably lead you to a profile. Whether I make content there or not is questioned. But Instagram is where I do most everything that I've done. But my partner is really, really insistent that I get back on Twitter. It's just so intimidating. People have a lot of opinions on Twitter, and I love and hate them. But I will say that like TikTok intrigues me so much. I've really fallen in love with it as a platform for activists, for artists, for creators. I maybe I'll try to give it the old college try. But I think that we all have to grow with the times, with the way that communication happens, and it takes a lot of bravery to do that. And so I'm always so impressed by people who are able to be seen and heard in who they are on social. So I want to be more of a social creature. It's just, when you're terrified as a human being, it's sometimes hard to do. So for those of you who are good at it, A+, bravery. But yeah, just as long as people are nice, I think that social media is one of the greatest things in the whole world.
Yeah, Twitter is good for, I figured out Twitter is really good for if you love a TV show or a movie, to like find that fan base.
Got you.
And be like, and like talk about the TV show and the movie and stuff.
Exactly.
That's what Twitter is good for. Then you avoid like all the people who say a lot more than they should.
Absolutely.
On social media. Well, it has been a pleasure talking to you. I have one last question that I have to ask before. So since you were in Wicked, who was your first Glinda and Elphaba that you ever saw, or did you see the show before you were cast?
The first time I saw it, I want to say I saw it when it was, and there'll be some Wicked fact checker who will immediately know this wasn't true, but I know it was not Adina. I think I saw Shoshana Bean.
Ooh.
Like I'm 90% sure I saw Shoshana. And then I feel like Kristen Chenoweth was still there because I saw it, I think in like 2004 or 5. But then I do remember that the first wizard I saw was George Hearn. And the reason that rang so loudly for me was because that Sweeney Todd pro shot that I'd seen that changed my life was with George Hearn and not with Lynn Carriou, who was the original. And he was such an incredible wizard. But I remember seeing that production, and I had never listened. I'm one of the people who I don't listen to a cast recording until I see the show. And to this day, always has done aces for me. I didn't see Hamilton. I didn't hear it at all. And then I walked in and I just sat there and was like, what is happening? This is awesome. Why is this such fire? But the same thing, I anybody who hasn't listened to Wicked, go see it. Because even if you don't know what defying gravity is, the second they get up to that one scene towards the end of Act 1, and you hear in the left hand of a piano just and I immediately went, I looked at the person I was with and I went, something's about to happen. I don't know what's about to happen, but something's about to happen. I think that was my first cast. I wish I remembered more of the principals in it from the time, but I do know I had an absolute blast the first time I saw it and never imagined that I would ever get to be a part of it. And then I got to go see my best friend, Alex Brightman, in it multiple times, which was so funny and weird. And then to suddenly take over and be there and like have it be my dressing room and have my friends come see it was wild. Like imagine like my first night at Wicked was like a couple of members of my family, and then Alex Brightman, Drew Gasparini, and Andrew Kober all getting to see my Broadway debut, and like literally having to do it for my best friends. For everybody else in the audience, it was like just a Tuesday. It was like a who cares Tuesday.
Yeah.
But for me, I was like, okay, all right, I'm gonna be there.
Like, this is fine. It's Wicked.
Yeah, it's Wicked. No one will notice.
Yeah. But hey, lo and behold, still around, still super popular.
Still nailing it.
Yep, still nailing it. Well, anyways, I had such a blast listening to all the valuable inspiration you have to share with the world. And
Thank you.
I can't wait to buy a ticket to the live stream for the
Yeah.
for your show. And the link will be in the description, as well
Thank
as
you.
where you can find you on
Yeah.
social media.
Awesome.
And
Well, thank you for everything.
Of course. Thank you for joining me. Thanks for watching this episode of Backstage with Becca B. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Becca B Talks TV. Or for more exclusive content from this interview and more, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Backstage with Becca B. Make sure to subscribe to my channel and like this video, or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, go ahead and give me a 5-star rating. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!